Good morning.
And welcome back to the Tech Buddies podcast YouTube channel. This year's WWDC was crazy compared to last year's WWDC, and this year we had less of AI and more of actual changes. In fact, this year celebrates one of the first modern era of Apple design, or we can say it's an evolution of Apple's design after a long time. I think the previous redesign that they had, or major redesign that they had, was iOS 7 in 2013. So this year, Apple brings a whole new liquid glass texture to their software throughout their different devices. Now, before we start talking about the actual features and the design, let's talk about one big thing: the naming scheme. This year, the naming scheme also has a change. So if you have an iPhone, it's now not iOS 19, it's iOS 26. That is for the year 2026. Same applies to iPadOS 26, macOS 26, watchOS 26, tvOS 26. So everything is unified in that way so that you do not have any confusion between the iOS version and which year it came out. Initially, I wasn't a fan of this change, but I think it makes sense for product development and even for making things easier for users to understand. So keep that in mind. Now I will be referring to it as its year number, like how Apple does it. Um, like I said, Apple Intelligence has taken a step back. I'm not saying it's vanished this year. It's taken a step back and they're actually moving on to the design. And I was talking about that whole liquid glass texture, and it's incredibly beautiful. I think we can start out with iOS, which is everyone's favorite. So this year with iOS, I think a few changes that I can notably say. I'm not going to cover everything for the sake of keeping this video short, but the lock screen changes once again, and the lock screen now has this glass light liquid glass text which can span according to your image, as in the text can span in width or height according to your image, based on the font. And it does look quite nice. When you go to the home page now has a glass-like texture to everything, whether it's the docs transparencies, the apps transparencies, the way the app icons look have changed completely. And this allows the tinting, which was there introduced in iOS 18, to look a whole lot better because the way all the icons have that are designed have been changed. So keep that in mind. That's the big new change with the icons in iOS. And there's now animated art from Apple Music in the lock screen, so giving another more immersive experience when it comes to lock screen, and spatial scenes for your wallpapers on iOS. So if you have a 2D image, you can get this 3D like texture. If you were a kid and you remember there was these books or toys where, like, if you looked at it from this angle, it looked like this. If you looked at it from this angle, it looked like this, giving it like a 3D effect. So that comes to iOS now. The camera app has been simplified by a huge bit. It now primarily focuses on two things: recording videos, recording photos. I mean, taking photos. And all the settings that come under are inside it. So it's theoretically easier to use, but I think we'll have to test that out. It might be confusing for a few users, especially for the ones who are transitioning from Android. But yeah, everything is now very plain, flat, bold, transparent. Now, Safari also gets the same thing. It was not very feature rich this year. That's what I would like to say. It's more of design rich. Everything was unified, made into one unit. Whether it's the buttons you interact with or the background, this thing, everything's made a little bit more transparent. Even the unlocking the phones become different now. Safari, the tabs have gone down. I mean, they were always down, but now they become circular in nature. Interacting with things and long pressing now opens a bigger dial so that you can have more options, and uh, everything is a little bit more transparent, like I mentioned before. Then swipes allow you to change the format and the settings in the camera app. There's also this feature called call screening now. So if a scammer or someone calls you, first let them announce their data, and based on that, you can decide if you want to pick up the call or not. Uh, Really nice feature. Hopefully, it works theoretically, but yeah. So that's where 4 minutes into the video, I think we can talk about Apple Music. And Apple Music now comes with lyrics translation from different languages. So all you people listen to music in different languages, like me, it's a good feature. Then lyrics pronunciation is also there. So like me, if you can't pronounce some of the words of the songs you're listening to, now you have the pronunciation under it. Hopefully this feature comes to macOS, but it is very unlikely the macOS app is getting an update. At least I didn't see anything when they were showing it. I hope that the macOS iPad Apple Music app gets an update. Auto Mix is another feature that's coming to Apple Music, and it's an incredibly nice feature. I think between two songs, using AI, it's able to transition the tracks seamlessly instead of gapless playback. Uh, so whether it's some elements and it's able to translate, I don't know how Apple is doing it, but the demo they showed was amazing. Then Wallet app also gets a lot of updates. Not many of them are India specific, so I'm not going to talk about a lot of them. But Tata car keys and Hyundai car keys and many other brands are now going to be are slowly going to be rolling out in the Wallet app. The Tata thing is for EVs only though. There's now a gaming specific app, a gaming app where you can interact, play with your friends, see what achievements. Basically, Game Center now becomes an app kind of, and you can quest up here in these apps. Now let's move on to WatchOS. WatchOS is it doesn't get a major update. Again, glass-like update comes to WatchOS 2. That is WatchOS 26 version, and there's now a wrist flick setting. So if you wanna maybe cancel a timer or a call or a notification, you can quickly flick your wrist and the notification is gone. So very simple, and I think the whole thing is it aims to reduce distractions. And the smart stack has also been improved, so whether you're at a time where you always do your workout or something like that, it recommends your workout or this exercise, or if you do some specific tasks at a specific time, it tells you when to do that. So that is quite cool. And there is also a workout buddy now in the Apple Watch. So if you're working out and using the Fitness Plus instructors, they have been able to process their voice and get a workout AI virtual workout buddy for people who keeps motivating you during any of your workouts. So if you're someone who lacks motivation, or you thrive under motivation, this might be very helpful for you. Now, uh, let's talk about macOS for a bit. macOS again, every OS now gets unified icons. The control center has been updated in macOS to look a lot more new. That was one thing that was lacking. It wasn't like matching with the rest of the macOS aesthetic, and now they did. Widgets have been updated. Live activities can now be accessed on macOS. So yeah, those are some things I noted. A huge update that comes to macOS is Spotlight Search. Believe it or not, a feature that has relatively remained the same for quite a bit has now changed. So Spotlight Search now gets a lot of things like if you type SM in Spotlight Search, you can get send a message quickly, QR to make a quick reminder, and a lot of quick keys that you can just use to uh, run specific shortcuts on your laptop. And the shortcuts app also has a huge improvement. I don't want to delve into it for the sake of keeping this video short, but basically Spotlight Search has gotten a lot better. A lot of keywords you can use to fine tune your workflow. And also there is now a dedicated clipboard history like how Windows does, right? So you can see what you copied before this, what you copied that time, what you are copying now in your clipboard. Incredibly useful feature. I think it's good that Apple included it. Now, there's again a games lab, and the games overlay comes from the side, so you can change some settings there in the game overlay. That's it for macOS. Moving on to iPadOS, and just before iPadOS, the event started, I was complaining to Arthur that it's like Apple has completely forgotten about iPad, and because he kept iPadOS to the end, and little did we know that they had planned the most changes to the iPad this time around. And I think this update could revitalize the whole iPad scene, which was kind of lackluster for the past couple of years, and we had been complaining about it. So, one, the iPad gets this whole new macOS inspired resizing, window based resizing, and what Apple claims is that every iPad that gets the iPadOS 26 supports this resizing. So you can have multiple apps open, you can resize it, you can keep apps open in the background, which is insane in my opinion. And I think it really bridges the gap between macOS and iPadOS. And when you bring an external pointer or an external touchpad, um, you now get a better pointer instead of that circle dot, which you couldn't do anything with. And even the dialogues have become better. And also the macOS based X, the red, yellow, green thing for window management that comes. Window tiling is also automatic now. So those are some really insane multitasking features that have come to iPad, and I think it definitely has changed the game when it comes to the iPad. And I think if you haven't watched the videos yet, definitely do try checking out the videos. And my mind was blown because I never expected Apple to be able to improve it in such a way. And I was just telling Athar that they can change something in the iPadOS before this thing came out, and Athar was saying, "What is there to change?" Well, Apple just showed us that there was a lot they could change. And this just reminded me that in macOS also the X minus and the maximize button, those three interactive buttons that are at the top right of every window, those also look a bit different now because of this new liquid glass design. And this design is being hated online, but I'm a huge fan of this transparent design, and makes things look very luxurious and very polished. Definitely going to be a lot more intensive. So I don't know what Apple's got planned there, but hopefully it's optimized. I will be trying to download the developer beta so that you guys can probably get some shots or some videos out of it and you can check it out. Then the Files app has also been improved. I don't want to get into specifics, but the iPadOS has a slightly more competent file app, but obviously it's still not on par with Mac, which I guess is what Apple is trying to do on purpose. But yeah, overall, the iPad update was incredible. And yeah, I think that was the highlight of the event for me. I think the event was very interesting. I know I don't sound interested, but that's because I'm very tired. It's super late at night. But boy, was the event a smashing hit from Apple's end. And another thing is now in FaceTime, you can record calls from your end in high quality, and it doesn't have to be FaceTime, it can also be in other apps too. High quality, local stored recordings. So, for us podcasters or anyone who likes to back up their memories on calls, it is quite useful. Yeah, so overall, the event was super exciting. Lots of changes, especially core way you interact with your phone, at least looks wise, has changed. So definitely interesting to see what Apple has done and how many of these AI features that they've introduced, which is quite a bit. I haven't gone too much into depth, is coming into what devices and the limitations of it and things like that. But yeah, overall interesting event. And stay tuned for the coming videos because I will definitely be trying out a lot of these features. But overall, iPadOS definitely the highlight of the event. It was a good event.